Yo, what's going on, boys and girls? Welcome back to the channel. Let's start to dig into what this team has to do now throughout the summer. Where we missed out on 4th spot in the Champions League, and that extra 42 million would have been invested heavily. But that's not going to stop them from doing what they need to do. Josh Kroenke has come out and made a statement yesterday saying that he's going to do exactly that. He believes in the plan that Edu has to put this team forward into a competitive position. And Edu is the man who's pulling the strings, and he has Arteta getting the results on the team. He has an owner in Josh Kroenke who's backing him to the hilt. And this is what we believe is going to move the team forward. Now, one of those players is Gabriel Jesus, whose preferred destination was to a club with Champions League football. He admitted himself everything was still up in the air, and he said about his future is still uncertain. He says he has a contract with City, and he says he wants to celebrate a lot with City, and it's obvious he's happy there, but he's on vacation and he will decide on his future then. Now, James McNicholas and David Ornstein has said that Jesus is Arsenal's #1 target. There's also a left-sided centre-back that Arsenal are looking at as well, so I'll be looking forward to seeing how that plays out throughout the summer. Now, Arsenal will have to focus on getting players who would be happy without top-level football. We're at that place again, not in the Champions League, and that normally comes at a price. Now, Tammy Abrahams grew up as an Arsenal fan, but he's never played for the club as he joined Chelsea as a youth academy 7-year-old. But he'll be available, but as an expensive option. And it's a very complex option as well, because you don't have to negotiate with just one team, but two, in terms of Chelsea and Roma. And I really can't see that happening, guys, for two reasons. One, it's just too complicated behind the scenes. And two, you're talking about 100 million euros, which when you have a squad of 18 players, and they're going to lose Lacazette and then probably Nketiah. So when you have a squad of 16 and you need about 6 or 7 players to add to what you've got in terms of depth, throwing away 100 million on one player is not the smart move. It's more likely that you'll spend 40 million or 45 million on Gabriel Jesus, and then you've got another 60 million to play around with. That's the smarter move, because then you can put more bums on seats in other positions. But the key here is to look out for the free agents. You can add to your squad. El Nene's already signed, as you guys know, and Nketiah and Lacazette will most likely be leaving, although with Nketiah there is a small chance, if they can convince him, that he is going to be a #1 or 2 option. Remember, he came into the season as #3 option last season, and that's the reason why he didn't really feature much. But Arteta revealed it's been decided, and they said it's very difficult to communicate it because obviously the players leave out on holiday. But it means that Arsenal will start their pre-season with just 16 players. Now, Saliba, Niles and Nelson all have a chance of coming back, but Mari, Torreira and Bellerin will possibly be moved on. Also, Bernd Leno is said to be joining the Portuguese Giants for a reported fee of 8.5 million this summer, so we'll have to wait to see how that works out. But for me, Arsenal will most likely be in contract talks of Pablo Dybala, who I talked about in my last video, Divock Origi from Liverpool, 27 years old in his prime, doesn't really get any chance at Liverpool, but does well every time he scores. I could see him doing really well in the Premier League with Arsenal. And Isco, and then Usam Dembele from Barcelona. So they'll be at least in talks with those agents and see what the players are up to. Andre Onana's not going to be an option as a goalkeeper because he's already signed a pre-contract with Inter Milan, so we'll have to find another goalie. So as for budgets, we know Arsenal have set out themselves previously to spend some money this summer, so they'll be looking to get some money in from around the sum of 60 million. So the likes of Guendouzi, Mavropanos have already generated 12.5 million, being offloaded to Marseille and Stuttgart respectively. The rest of the money will be made from the likes of Hector Bellerin, Lucas Torreira, Bernd Leno, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Pepe and then Pablo Mari. So that's where Arsenal are really going to look to bring in some players. Now, Arteta's told technical director Edu that he needs 22 to 24 outfield players to cope with the extra demands of Europa League football next season. So Edu has a massive job on his hands in bringing in several players. So I wonder who you guys would like to see come in, and also which academy players you'd like to see come into the first team. The likes of Coutinho, Miguel Aziz, Hutchinson. I know they'll get their chance in the Europa League group stages for sure, but them being on the bench for the latter part of the last few months has only really been fodder to fill a spot, to be honest with you. Arsenal's priorities now, centre forward and a number 8 is their biggest priority this summer. Now the club is prepared to pay premium for a striker, we know that, but a second striker may not be needed if Nketiah decides to stay. So I think that that's probably smart business because we know he can do a job. 5 goals in 8 Premier League starts this season and 9 goals in 12 appearances as a hold for Nketiah this season. So you're not really going to, you talk about trying to find a striker who can give you 15 goals a season. You've already got one in Eddie. You've already got one. So the play would be to try and convince him to stay and let him know that he'll be an option. As I said in my last video, guarantee him 20 games and then I think that you'll be able to get something from him to sign on. Because otherwise, what Nketiah is in danger of doing is signing for another team who already has a striker option there and then you being in the same position as you are at Arsenal. As for the left-back position, that's definitely on the agenda for us. Looking for another left-back, and really you're going to have to tailor-make what you're going to do between the two of Tavares and Tierney. I think having a third option there would be better, definitely considering what we've seen this season from both. Hickey is admired, but there's no bid on Aaron Hickey as far as I'm aware, and from what's been going on the feeds at the moment now, there's not really much traffic going on with him. So I don't really think he's a priority at this stage. And definitely right back is not a priority. So look forward to Cedric Soares coming back to back up Tomiyasu next season. And I thought that worked really quite well. Soares is not a first option, but when he comes in, he can do a job. And overall, looking at his overall play, I think that that's acceptable for a backup right back. So Sam Dean from The Telegraph has reported that Gabriel is understood to be happy at Arsenal and he's unlikely to want to move away. So it doesn't really matter who comes in. I know there's people talking about Napoli and Juventus have come in for him. Look, 80 million for Maguire, 75 million for Van Dijk. It's going to take that kind of money to buy a player like Gabriel from Arsenal. And look, if you sell him for 70, 80 million, and then you tell Saliba that spot is yours, that's another way Arsenal can generate some money. So there are things and options that need to be dealt with here, guys. We've talked about on the streams that there's nobody that is unsellable in our club, including Saka. There's nobody that's unsellable. And we've seen the success that some teams have had by selling the likes of Ronaldo, Gareth Bale, Coutinho. We've seen big deals for Eden Hazard. We've seen clubs sell players for big amounts of money and use that money to reinvest in the team. And to be honest with you, as much as I'm a big Gabriel fan, if you was to offer me 80 million for Gabriel, I would pick up the phone, call Saliba and say, that spot is yours next to Ben White. And then you've got your 2 bookends there at centre-back, and then you've got 80 million in to go and reinvest in a prime-time striker and then a big-time number 8 as well. So I would, as long as it helps to build the team, I would do it because that is what needs to be done in order to build your team. And then just focus on what you're going to do with centre-back moving forward because you still have Rob Holding as a third option. So the other thing that we need to talk about, guys, is the elephant in the room in terms of what is going on with Everton strikers. You've probably heard that Arsenal have been in contact with Richarlison's agent as well. So Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison both on the pecking order as an option. So taking a look at both of them, we know the injury history that Calvert-Lewin has. You can see this season only 21 appearances. Richarlison, 33 appearances, 11 goals. That's really what you want to see from your striker. 33 appearances, 11 goals, 5 assists. You look at Calvert-Lewin, has only got 5 goals and 2 assists. You look at the goals per match, obviously, again, these numbers don't really correlate in terms of what Eddie Nketiah has already given you. In terms of goals per match, shots per goal, goals per minute, Richarlison's the better out of the 2 in terms of Calvert-Lewin. But out of the 2, I definitely would prefer Richarlison. I got to be honest, it's got to be him out of the 2. Plus the Brazilian ties in with Edu there, which would I really wouldn't expect Calvert-Lewin to be an option at any point this summer. I really wouldn't. If I was to go for one of them, it would be Richarlison. But let me know what you guys think, man, because there is so much options that we need to look at now. So much players who could play in the Premier League, who are Premier League ready, and some that have no experience in the Premier League at all. So we've got to be careful with what we're doing. You don't want to end up in a situation where you bring a guy like Timo Werner in, like Chelsea, and then they just can't submit to the Premier League at all. That's a very dangerous commodity there as a front office, and Edu has to be careful with the player that he brings in. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace out.